Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Behind the Cards, or should I say today, Behind the Cards. This is going to be about the 1981 San Francisco 49ers, and actually this is really about the Niners as a team from that era. So I'm going to try to make this one shorter than the next video, which is going to be the last episode of season 1, and that will deal with Pete Rose. So this one's going to be a shorter one. So Bill Walsh, to me, is somebody that I consider to be the smartest head football coach of all time. I know that there will be people that'll say Bill Belichick or Don Shula or Paul Brown or whoever it is, but to me, Bill Walsh, I don't know. I think you could make an argument best coach of all time, although now most people would probably say Bill Belichick. But I believe that Bill Walsh is the smartest football coach of all time, and he was a game changer, literally a game changer. He changed the game. Prior to Bill Walsh becoming head coach of the 49ers, the NFL was a running league. Primarily, it was a run the football, pound and ground kind of a game, and passing was secondary, at least in the NFL. The AFL was more of a passing league, but once the leagues merged in 1970, it was primarily a running league, more so than passing. But the 49ers changed that when Bill Walsh took over in 1979, and I have Walsh's profile pulled up from Pro Football Reference, and his first year was 1979, and the 49ers went 2-14. The next year they went 6-10. That was 1980. 81 they went 13-3, and they got to the Super Bowl, and of course they won the Super Bowl and they beat the Bengals. The following year, 82, was the strike-shortened season. They went 3-6. And one of the things that I learned while watching the Elway to Marino documentary, the 30 for 30 on ESPN, is that Walsh explored a possible trade with the Baltimore Colts. At the time, the Colts were in Baltimore, about acquiring John Elway. And there was talk, nothing really serious or anything that went beyond exploration, that Joe Montana would have went to Baltimore, and that did not happen. And even John Elway said, I would have loved playing for Bill Walsh, but that would have been a tough situation to walk into. I agree with that. So Montana stayed, and the Niners went 10-6 in 1983. They got to the NFC Championship and lost a controversial game to the Washington Redskins in that game. 84, they went 15-1. They won the Super Bowl. That was Walsh's second championship and the Niners' second championship in the Super Bowl. 85, they went 10-6. They finished second. And in 86, they went 10-5-1, finishing first, but no Super Bowl. 87, that was another strike-shortened year. The 49ers went 13-2. In my opinion, they should have won the Super Bowl that year. And they ended up losing to the Minnesota Vikings at home. That was the famous or infamous game where Steve Young took over for Montana in the third quarter, I think it was. And Young rallied the team and got closer, but the Vikings ended up winning. And that's when the quarterback controversy began between Montana and Young in the next season, which was 88. And the Niners went 10-6. Walsh wins another Super Bowl. That was his third, and the 49ers third, and then Walsh retired after that season. But 1981, they went 13-3, and they finished first in the NFC West. They won the divisional round against the New York Giants. They beat them 38-24. And of course, they beat the Dallas Cowboys 28-27. Sorry, Cowboys fans. They beat them in that famous classic championship game. And then they beat the Bengals 26-21 in the Super Bowl. So, 81 season began against the Detroit Lions at the Pontiac Silverdome, which was where the Super Bowl was, in January of 82. And the 49ers actually lost that game 24-17 in real life to the Detroit Lions. So it was not an easy path. And at one point they were 2-2 to start the season. And then they went on a winning streak here. It looks like they won 4 in a row. They went to 7 actually, excuse me, they went 6-game winning streak. They went to 8-2. And then they lost a game to the Cleveland Browns. And then from that point on, they did not lose a regular season game or any game after that. And they finished at 13-3. So why the 49ers? Because, as I said, Bill Walsh was a game changer. And if you look at the NFL now, it is and has been for decades now, it is a passing league, primarily a passing league. And in my opinion and some other people's, the NFL has made rules which have made it easier for offenses to excel. And I don't think we will ever see a defense again like the 46 defense of the Chicago Bears, the Monsters of the Midway, or even the 49ers defense. The 49ers had a great defense that doesn't get a lot of recognition because they didn't have a nickname. You know, you have to have a nickname. The Steel Curtain, the Purple People Eaters, the Monsters of the Midway, the 46 defense, the Legion of Doom, whatever the term is, the New York Sack Exchange, some kind of nickname. And the Niners didn't have that. So a lot of people in the media would call them the finesse team. Well, you have a finesse defense. And Bill Walsh hated that. It really pissed him off. And he would bristle at it. But they had a great defense. But the offense is what got the most attention. And as I say, he was truly a game changer because from that point on, offenses were much more pass-oriented. And I've said this before, but perception is reality. And there was a perception by the old school coaches back then that, oh no, you got to run the football. That's the manly thing to do. And men are men and they run the football and they ground it and they pound the ground. And we don't do any of that passing stuff. Well, that changed. And it certainly has changed now where it became the West Coast offense, which was really a variation of the Paul Brown, Ohio Valley offense. Walsh just took it to another level. And pretty soon, if there's one thing I've learned in life, it is that everything is cyclical. That happens. Everything comes back around. And also that if you have an original idea and it's a good idea or a great idea and it works, but no one else has done it, you will be met with criticism and a lot of skepticism. And people will say things like, oh, that won't work. That'll never work. There's no market for that. You're crazy. You're stupid. Blah, 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 blah. But all it takes is somebody with the guts to say, we're going to run with this and we're going to do the best we can. And when it works, everybody wants to copycat. Everybody wants to copy it. And then everybody starts following suit. I mean, we've seen this example, not just in sports, but in anything, in any industry. If you take movies, for example, Star Wars, look at all the science fiction films from the early 70s or the late 60s. They were all these apocalyptic doom and gloom, dystopian kind of end of the world stuff. Very dark, very, very dark. And What was the early 70s? It was the era of the anti-hero. And then George Lucas comes out with this movie, by the way, the most successful independent film of all time. And it was met with a lot of skepticism. Oh no, that's not going to work. No, nobody watches movies like that anymore. No one cares about that. And yet it becomes this massive success. And it spawns 2 more movies and then many prequels and sequels and all kinds of stuff now. My point is that Bill Walsh had a great idea and he stuck with it. And he didn't listen to the critics. He didn't listen to the naysayers. He said, look, this is the plan that we have. We're going to move forward with it. And that's what we're going to do. And it was successful. That was a big key, of course, being successful. But it worked. And the 49ers and Bill Walsh changed the game. And when I play APBA football, I try to copy Bill Walsh and all the coaches in the NFL for APBA football, but I really try to mimic the 49ers West Coast offense. And hopefully I do a good job. I'll never be as good as these coaches are, and I certainly will never be anywhere near as good as Bill Walsh. But I just wanted to give props to the San Francisco 49ers and recognize them for the great team that they are, and they certainly were back in 1981. Thank you for watching, everybody. Have a wonderful rest of your weekend, what's left of it, and have a great week. I'll see you soon.